Am I good? Okay. Should I start that again, I assume? Okay. Well, thank you all for being here today. We are so excited to have you here, and thank you to our panelists for coming out after hours and being a part and helping us support our first generation college students and our first generation professionals. And thank you to our online crowd signing in online today. Thank you as well. My name is Megan Mraz. I am the coordinator for TRIO Student Support Services, and we're going to go ahead and get started. So this is our professional trailblazers, empowering first generation students to navigate life after college. Get this working. So we're here to honor our first generation college students as part of our campus-wide efforts to celebrate National First Gen Day, which was on the 8th. And as part of our efforts to celebrate and support first generation college students, we believe that your insights and experiences would greatly enrich the event and inspire our attendees. And so it is my honor to introduce our TRIO students, David Warden and Mercedes. Please, Elizalde. Okay, I'm so sorry. I didn't want to butcher your last name. As our moderators for our event. And David, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to you so that you can introduce our panelists.
So our first panelist this evening is Amy Lapino. She is a grants accountant here at Forsyth Technical Community College. She works to track expenditures and budgets for grants provided by the Department of Education, including TRIO. Before working here at Forsyth Tech, she gained experience in auditing and accounts payable for a manufacturing company and a business service company. For her education, she went to Forsyth Tech for a college transfer degree. While attending school here, she joined the SGA, Student Government Association, work study, and worked in retail while pursuing her degree. After graduating from FTCC, she went to UNCG for a bachelor's degree in accounting, continued her retail job, and also got her first internship in audit. In her free time, she enjoys spending time with her husband, pets, and fostering for the Humane Society. She is also starting to learn woodworking. Our second panelist is Demarius Johnson. He is a first-generation college graduate from Indianapolis, Indiana, who graduated from the Community College of Baltimore County in May 2017. He is currently a PhD student in history at Ohio State University, community outreach manager at Bookmarks Bookstore, and editor of a photography book entitled Picturing Black History, Photographs and Stories That Changed the World. In his work with Bookmarks, he coordinates partnerships with community organizations to promote literacy and civic engagement across Winston-Salem. He is a student of the African and American past who aims to share his knowledge of insightful, empowering, and lesser-known events in Black history. Our third panelist of the evening is Ashley George. She is a higher education practitioner with over 10 years of experience. She holds a Bachelor's of Arts in Interdisciplinary Studies with a focus on social work and justice studies from Winston-Salem State University, and a Master's in Higher Education and Student Affairs Administration from the University of North Carolina at Greensboro. Currently, she's pursuing her doctoral degree online at Liberty University. She's passionate about academic writing, and she has a knack for applying for scholarships. Outside of work, she loves spending time with family and catching up on the latest Netflix shows. In her current role, she works as a residential in a residential higher education setting, and she serves as a fill-in naval science instructor for ROTC at a local high school. She's excited to be here and share her experiences with you today. And our last panelist of the evening is Eduardo Reyes. As the son of Mexican immigrants, Eddie is a first-generation student and graduate of the California Community College System. Eddie credits his community college experience as a turning point in his life because he was allowed the opportunity to explore various interests while taking ownership of his educational pursuits. For him, the community college and its many resources opened the door to multiple opportunities that eventually led to earning an associate's degree. a bachelor's degree, and 2 master's degrees. With over 10 years of experience in the field as an instructor, counselor, and transfer advisor, he believes education is a quintessential part of human growth, encouraging students to think critically and learn from diverse perspectives in and out of the classroom. He is passionate about advising, mentoring students, and motivating them to see their potential. Through collaborative efforts, he hopes to help students with pursuing their academic, personal, and professional goals. I guess we'll have a round of applause for all the panelists we have with us this evening.
Thank you so much. Well, my name is Mercedes, and first of all, thank you so much, all 4 of you, coming in today. I'm really happy for you to be here, and I'm really excited for hear all your amazing answers for our really wonderful questions. So I'm going to start kicking off with the first question that is going to be, what does being a first-generation college graduate mean to you and your family? I'll give you a second to thought about it, and whoever wants to start first.
Hello, everybody. I'm Demarius Johnson. Glad to join you all. Glad that folks are in the room and virtually welcome. So I'll start. What being a first-generation graduate means to me, really I think about my grandmother who, growing up, always valued education, but stopped her own education in middle school. She had a family, so she had to take care of her family, so she wasn't able to continue with her education. My mom was born and grew up. She had a very similar experience, taking care of her family, wasn't able to continue her education. And so it was always very important to my family that the kids of the family, so me and myself, my 2 younger siblings, had an opportunity to achieve graduating from college as a way to expand opportunities for our life. And even though that was a very important priority to my mom, she couldn't guide us on how to do that. And so we always felt a responsibility and opportunity to pursue our education, but didn't really have a pathway for doing that. I'm sure we'll talk about more kind of our stories and how we navigated the different kind of elements of our story in getting to graduation. But what it means to me to be able to navigate that experience is feeling personal pride that I was able to achieve, earning my bachelor's degree in education since then, and feeling pride about that for myself, but also feeling pride about that for my mom and for my grandmother, who wanted the same things for themselves, but weren't in an unfortunate position that I was to be able to achieve that. So it is really humbling for me to be able to achieve something that makes them feel pride, and as much pride as I feel for myself. I'm really thankful for what they poured into me that motivated me to even aspire to finish in college. And so I'm humbled and thankful for that. And when I look back on having finished school, those are the things that I think about.
All right, awesome. How's it going, everyone? Eddie here. For me, definitely what stands out is the word perseverance. It wasn't easy. I know, having my parents be Mexican immigrants, they didn't have a lot of the same opportunities that I was thankfully, afforded and to do. So in hindsight, one of the things that I'm pretty proud of as well is I think about my immediate family and my siblings. We're all college graduates. And when I look at it from the perspective of my extended family, we're the only ones that went to college. So to be able to, in many ways, be kind of, I know it's cheesy, but the trailblazers in that, and be able to kind of start something that hadn't been started before, I think that's awesome. And I really credit my parents' support. So despite the fact that they didn't know the ropes, so to speak, of how to get there, they provided a lot of emotional support to just kind of keep persevering. So yeah.
Hey, you all, I'm Ash. It's good to see you all in person and virtually. For me, my family, redneck as can be, from Birmingham, Alabama, family of 16, 3 sets of twins. So I'm a twin, and I'm the eldest girl. And so if you all are women identifying as women and you are the oldest of your family coming from a larger setting, I would say keep going. To me, being a first generation student is power, it's resiliency, it's success, it's empowerment, it's mentorship. And so for me, I held a bunch of hats that I wasn't quite ready for, but I made sure that I was ready. And so one thing that I would convince you all as first generation students is just be ready for getting ready. And so to me, it just means so much for me to be able to climb my own version of success, but then reach back and pull up people. It doesn't matter if it's biological family members or it's people in my community or even my students. I make sure that I always pour into them because somebody has poured into me. So that's what that means to me as a first generation student.
Hello, Amy. Specifically for me, being a first generation college student meant stability and it meant diversity of options. My dad specifically had gone straight from having a paper route to working for a printing company to owning his own printing company and then losing that business and not having an education. So nothing to fall back on when he lost that business, had never done anything else. So struggled to find a job after he lost that business. So when he was raising me, having an education to rely on, to have options, was really important to him. And he wanted me to not pigeonhole myself into something and to have that stability that he wound up not having. So he really pushed me and really encouraged me and was really there and wanted so much more for me than he had. And ultimately, like when I graduated, I definitely saw what he was talking about.
Thank you so much for answering. Totally, as a student, I totally feel related to all your stories. And actually, this second question kind of follows what you were saying. How has your relationship with your family or community changed after being the first to graduate?
For me, my relationship so much with my family hasn't specifically changed. Like, I'm 8 years out of college and I still call my dad every time I don't know what to do. And just sure, I have an education, my dad doesn't, but he is still the person that I look to seek out his life experience, to guide me through things. Honestly, my degree specifically is in accounting, so really the only thing that has changed is that he asks me to do his taxes now. But as far as community, it's kind of the same thing. Like, it gave me diversity of options and it gave me a path, but it didn't fundamentally like change who I was or anything. So yeah.
So I'll just say that kind of growing up in my family, in my community, I was the first in my neighborhood and even among my friends, people older than us, of my siblings. So I felt a sense of responsibility all the way through school that earning a degree was supposed to mean something. Not just on the day that I graduated, but mean something for the people who made it possible for me to be there, who cheered me along the way, who encouraged me when I faced roadblocks. And so I felt a sense of responsibility, mainly because I recognized what it meant for people from where I came from Indianapolis, to have that opportunity. And I continue to feel that sense of responsibility increase as time has increased, as my friends or my siblings kind of also had responsibilities to family that were more, took time and energy away from their ability to go to school, that my opportunity to get this degree should mean something to the community that I come from. And I've always knew that that responsibility was on the horizon, and then as time has gone along, stepped into that as time has gone, and I've seen opportunities to contribute to the community around me. And that's been true for the people who are my neighbors and friends and family in Indianapolis, and in other places. I went to school in Maryland. I live in Winston-Salem, so I'm always thinking about how does the opportunity that I've been afforded, that I've had to persevere to navigate through, similar to what Eddie has said, what benefit does that have to the community of people that I'm connected to? I feel a real strong sense of responsibility to that.
I would like to retweet that, especially what they've all said. For me, I also feel like it strengthened my social institutions, but I would like to add on to that as well. I had to build a family with boundaries. And what I mean is we wear so many hats in our community that it's a heavy crown to wear. And so sometimes you have to step back and not only focus on building, your newer version of family, like newer friends, newer mentors, newer everything, maybe a new supervisor. And so we have to worry about our own self-care. And that's one thing that I would like to advise you all is just kind of build a family with boundaries and make sure that you hold tight to those boundaries but also holding tight to your own social responsibilities of academics and financial, making sure that you're doing what you're supposed to do. But for me personally, it did strengthen my relationships within the community. I kind of delved deep. I was already in the community, but with my major, we were held responsible. A part of our curriculum was going into lower income neighborhoods, doing a lot of social advocacy. And so I feel like for me, like again, I feel like it's strengthened just like my peers have said as well.
In terms of the relationship that I had with my family, specifically my parents, I can say, again, throughout the entire time, they were incredibly supportive. I know there were times where they would expect you to go to like a wedding or a quinceañera or some sort of party, and there was always a little bit of conflict sometimes just because I don't think they fully understood what it means to be a college student and what it means to actually study. They're just thinking you're in your room and you're at your desk, so you have all the time in the world, but they didn't understand that I had to be in that headspace. So I think through several conversations, they finally started to get it, where it really, I guess, made for a mutual respect and in some ways kind of pride, is when I went to go pursue a master's degree. I went out of state. So I'm originally from California, went to Texas, and I had a hard time adjusting. And I just kept reminding myself, if my parents moved to a different country, not knowing the language, then it was kind of further motivation to have me pursue it and actually finish it. So I think it really strengthened the bond that I had with my parents. In terms of my community, again, I'm originally from California, and with California having a pretty big Mexican population, Latin American population, one of the things that I got involved with was this program called PIQUE, and it stands for Parental Institution for a Quality Education. And because of my knowledge and because of my background and because of the experiences that I had, I made an effort to educate my community, and specifically a lot of Mexican Americans, Mexican parents who were also immigrants, about the college process and how to be successful. And the nice thing is they were learning the content, their kids were learning the content, and it was a good way just to involve the community to have to have everyone move forward. So that's how I guess in some ways helped my community as a whole.
Thank you so much. Well, so you were saying all of this kind of sounds like a challenge and somehow, or you were experienced with your families, and that leads us to the third question that it will be, besides this, were any other specific challenges that you confront during your college, such as financial student loans, getting into classes, since you were saying you were an international student, so any other like challenges as an international student you confront when you were in college?
Above all, imposter syndrome. I think being a first generation college student, a lot of times if you're not seeing faculty, staff, students that look like you, you can often feel out of place. And that was one of the big things for me, especially as I pursued a graduate degree. I went to a private Christian university. Majority of students were Anglo-American. Even within my own program, I was the only student of color. And that was hard. I would, again, I'd be lying if I said it wasn't. But I think going back to that perseverance and going back to understanding what not only it means for me to be a college student and to be successful, but what it meant to my parents and my community as a whole, it was further motivation to do it. So I would say I think one of the things that I struggled with the most was this idea of imposter syndrome and constantly asking myself, do I belong here? Should I be here? And I just kept reminding myself, well, I got to where I am as a result of just studying hard and taking advantage of resources. And I was able to get on the same level with a lot of my classmates without maybe some advantages they had. So with that, again, I just had to gain a little bit more self-confidence, but it'll happen. You just remember the thing that I often tell my students when it comes to imposter syndrome is you can have it do one of two things: have it sink you or ultimately motivate you to do better. So, yeah.
I would just add to that, one of the barriers to me that I always thought about was finances. And not just that I had to work through school, as many people do, but just not even understanding how the finances of college worked in the first place because it was all new. So, in my experience in different institutions, not understanding how financial aid worked, not understanding the loan paperwork, I knew that it was necessary to sign it, but I didn't know what it meant. And so, learning about that, uh, being in the position to repay the loans is when I understood what I was signing on the front end. And so I think just that financial literacy, understanding how college is paid for, and then understanding what the consequences are as I was filling out paperwork and thinking about my professional future, which is impacted by, in some way, like the loans I had to take out, I think was an important barrier that I didn't recognize until after the fact, which looking back, I wish that there was more support around that so that I could have been aware of just how expensive it was, and then also would have made me think differently about what the opportunity meant, and just because it was so costly. And I think recognizing the price of things for me would have been something to reinforce how valuable it is that people, that it is such an expense, but then also that I'm taking on the expense, which increases, would have increased my commitment and devotion in terms of pursuing the best and the most that I could get out of an experience that was so costly financially. So that is something that I look back on and think about.
For me, like I said, I'm from Birmingham, Alabama, but I did move down here as a young girl in 2010 with all of my siblings. And for me, it was kind of like a culture shock just coming here. I went to a school where there wasn't a lot of people like me, not a lot of people that look like me, especially racially. And so when I went, I found out about it. I was actually a part of a TRIO program in high school. And so I found out about what a HBCU was. And I said, what is that? So that was for me, that was one of my challenges because it was a huge cultural shock to be. I know that people say, oh, it should be like, homey, but I was kind of nervous because I was like, I'm not used to this type of atmosphere and just seeing a bunch of like-minded people. It was just overload. But when I got indulged in the culture and just learning more and taking different classes and the clubs and organizations, I became really involved in my campus, taking on many jobs because I felt like, I had to give back to my family. Like I said, I felt like I had to climb my own ladder of success, but also reach back and give. We were always told as kids, remember where you're coming from. So I always made sure I had to send some money home and take care of my younger siblings and made sure I showed up for them. So that was like a challenge for me, just the time management portion. But once the planner came in check and they started having online Google calendars and stuff, I was in it, I was on it, and I checkmate, okay? So that was one of the challenges that I personally faced that I feel like is really unique to the first generation experience as it pertains to moving from a school where there wasn't a lot of people that looked like you to now going to college to a HBCU and having that experience.
For me, a lot of it was just learning how to not doubt myself and to not get frustrated. I also had to work my way through my entire degree to pay rent and pay expenses and function. And to try to do that on top of going to classes. And then I grew up in a small town where a lot of my friends from high school after I graduated went straight into the workforce, or they went to work for mom and dad's business or something like that. And I would see them like kind of already climbing the ladder in what they were doing, and then question like, oh, did I do the right thing? Like, should I, like, what am I spending all my income on? But it was just learning to be resilient and learning to, yeah, it's okay to get frustrated, but to stick with it anyway, because I look back on it and I'm like, I'm so glad that I was able to stick through it and to get to the end of it, because it's been so worth it.
Yeah, and definitely all your answers really. And every time a little story kind of identifies what I'm feeling right now, so I just feel really with you. But kind of like moving forward a little bit, how did graduating from college change your outlook on life, on also your future opportunities as well?
It changed my outlook on life. Like, even as I'm sitting here speaking with you all, I'm hearing work, 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 work. And so when I thought that I would have to work, and that's when I kind of slowed down my junior year. I said, I'm not about to double major. Like, this is a lot, and then work 4 different jobs. I was doing a lot. You all don't have to work like that. There's other ways of research and scholarships. There are so many scholarships of people wanting to just hand it out like candy. Winston State, they had a lot of like scholarship opportunities, CIAA, where they'll take you on trips. And so there are a lot of different opportunities in scholarships. And so that's one thing that I would like just advise, as first generation, just slow down. Like, map out what you truly want, and think about the advantages. You want to make sure that your primary focus is on your goals and being who you want to be, and not be so work, 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 work. It's good to have work and to get the bills paid and the money paid, but you can also do that through scholarships as well as grants, and just opening your mouth. For me, my first day at Winston State, I said, I'm not about to sit here in my dorm room and not do anything. Let me go out and explore the world, because my parents had dropped me off, and I said, how dare you? You dropped me off into this world, and I'm sheltered, and you left me with a whole bunch of snacks and, free meals. Like, what is this? I want home-cooked meals. So I was also going through that. But I said, let me go out and explore this world. So I went, and I don't know if anybody's familiar with Winston State campus, but they have like a huge like resource center called Hill Hall. And I said, one day I'm going to introduce myself to everybody in this building. And it pays off. It really did pay off. Just introducing myself and letting them know who I was. And I wanted to know who they were. So I say that's another piece of advice that I could offer as well. Introduce yourself to everybody in the room. And sometimes you may forget to do that, but it's good for it to pay off, because you never know. A lot of those individuals that I introduced myself my first day, 4 years later, they ended up giving me scholarships and helping me graduate and waiving my graduation cap loans and all of that. So that's one piece of advice that I could offer.
I honestly had a similar outlook after I got out. I personally like rushed my way through my degree. Like, I would not let myself not take as many classes as I could. I wanted to get my degree done in the normal time frame, despite having to work and doing all of the other things, in large part because I wanted to not have to do both anymore. But I look back on it, and kind of my outlook changed very quickly after I graduated. And I was like, I really just wish I hadn't put so much pressure on myself to do this the stereotypical way. Because if I had taken an extra year, I might have had more of an idea of like specifically what I wanted to do in accounting after I graduated, or maybe I could have taken on a second internship, or maybe I would have less gray hair. Any of those things.
I would just add to that, I'm really thankful for the experience of all the people that I met. So there were mentors, and there are people that introduced me to the next step. of what I should think about at the next stage of life. That was true in high school, that was true at community college, that was true in undergrad, that was true in graduate school, that every phase of the way, as I was trying to think about, okay, when I finish this experience, what's the next step? I'm really grateful for the people that I've met who are mentors who said, okay, if you like this experience, you should consider that. And the things that they raised and mentioned were things that I'd never considered. And so my world opened up at every phase of my academic journey because of the people that I met there who were mentors, and also because of the people that I met that were friends to me, who are lifelong friends to me. And so I'm thankful for that experience, for meeting people who every time we get back together, we remember when we first met, and how much life has changed over the time since we first met on campus and we were trying to find classes together or figuring out how to register for classes or just different parts of our college experience. Being able to look back on the relationships that came out of that and how much life has opened up, not just for me, but for all of us because of the experiences that we had together.
Yeah, I would echo pretty much everything that everyone said. I know when I graduated, there were a mixture of emotions. When you think about it, if like myself, I ended up going to college right after high school, so going to school was the norm from the moment I was 4 years old up until I was about 22. And so because of that, there was this sense of, okay, like what's next? What am I going to do now? How am I going to get a job? And so, so there was a mixture of pride. There was a mixture of kind of being a little bit anxious of what's the next step after this, and then reflecting on who I'd met, the experiences that I had really did open up a lot of opportunities. I will say that I think initially there was this sense of, did I do the right thing? Could I have made money like some of my friends who went straight into the workforce? And I will say over time, the fruits of your labor will show up. I think it's very easy to want that instant gratification, myself included. And over time, I realized, yes, it 100% was worth it. I'm now seeing the fruits of my labor. I'm now seeing a lot of what I did and why it was important. And to echo what you said, if you can take the extra year to do a study abroad program, if you can take the extra year just to get more experiences in college, do it. Because once you graduate and once you start working, once you start going into the workforce and having other responsibilities, it becomes much more difficult to do that. So take advantage of all resources, apply for scholarships, take advantage of opportunities, talk to people, and like I said, it will work out in the end.
And since we're speaking to like workforce, what would be one piece of advice that you'll give to current first generation students to help them succeed into getting into the workforce?
So a network like no other. I think the biggest thing that you could do is just ask questions. Don't be afraid to meet people. Don't be afraid to introduce yourself to people. I think one of the beauties of being a first generation college student is that everything is new. And I always went in with the mindset of, if I'm here to get my education, I'm here to learn. And that can also apply to being a first generation college student and learning more about college, the structure of college, the administration of college, and everything kind of in between. And so I think one of the things that was really helpful, as I mentioned, is talking to people. I got to get my first college teaching experience. I taught my first college course at the age of 21, which is something I never thought was going to be a possibility, but I did it. That led into me being a counselor working for my alma mater, my university, go Cal State Fullerton. And then with that, it was just kind of a ripple effect. People will start to notice, so do good work and yeah, ask questions.
I can also echo that. Just network, honestly. Like I said, when I was a TRIO student, also at Winston State University, my undergrad, I just was in that program so much that they decided to hire me. So I was administrative assistant for the TRIO program because I love the workshop. So I definitely say network, network, network. Also, a major thing is watch how you brand yourself. You can walk into a room smiling and make sure you're dressed professionally. A lot of people, a lot of my students, they try to come into my classroom wearing bonnets, and I said, no ma'am, no ma'am, take it off, because you never know who's going to walk into the classroom. I could have you know first sergeants, commanders walking into my NJRTC class, and I'm like, no, we cannot have that in here. So I say market yourself and look at yourself and see how you're branding yourself, because that's going to speak volumes. And you can also not only market yourself physically in person, but also online. Watch how you are posting. You never know what scholarship committee or what job is trying to hire you, and they can just do a quick Google search and see your tweets. And so if you have anything, past recent or just, in the past, make sure you just go ahead and delete it and start fresh, and just make sure that you are marketing yourself in the most appropriate and professional way as possible, because you never know who's watching. I've been in so many rooms and just watch people get hired just because the way that they hold themselves with others. So you never know who is in that room, who's watching you, and what moves that they're expecting you to make professionally. And so there are a lot of people also like that want to look up to you as well who are watching. So that's another key aspect that I would try to emphasize to you all.
So I would only echo all that has already been said. There's so much great advice. And I would just say, just in terms of work, as with the college experience itself, is trusting yourself, trusting your interests, trusting your ability to make the next step, trusting yourself to find people that can help you when you don't know, support you when you need support, and being curious about searching those people out and finding those resources, whether they be on campus or in your community or in so many different circumstances. There are people who can be support. And so I would just say, just to trust that you can make that next step, even when it's uncertain, that you can step into uncertainty and make your way, and that your presence on campus is already proof of that. And so I think that it's really important, as you're trying to look forward to your future, to trust your past and what that already demonstrates about what you're capable of. And finding people that believe in and support that is really important as well.
Definitely want to echo all of that. Networking is super, super important. I will emphasize, as an introvert, if it does not come naturally to you, find a way to force yourself to do it. I did it by utilizing every resource at my disposal. UNCG in particular had a really effective career center where you could go in and you could tell them that you had a job interview coming up, and they would do mock interviews with you. They would help you figure out how to dress. They would help you look for jobs, everything. Go to every event, go to every career fair that you can make yourself go to. If it makes you uncomfortable, it's growth. I landed my first job out of college by talking to somebody at a career fair at UNCG, and then I got the internship and wound up staying on part-time there until I graduated. I got myself out of working retail, and it worked out so well. It's uncomfortable because I'm introverted, but do it anyway.
Thank you so much for that. Now, with this question, I'm going to get kind of a little more private into it, but were there moments when you doubt your ability to graduate? Where's the moment where you said, I don't think I'm going to graduate? And if it did, how did you overcome those feelings?
So, like my peer down here said, I also struggled with the imposter syndrome, but I said not today. And I was trying to do too much. Like I said, joining too many clubs. I just want to be a part of this, a part of this. So I was a double major with 2 minors. And I said, wait a minute. I had to get sat down by my mentor, and he was like, wait a minute, what are you doing? And I said, I'm trying to do everything. I want to be this. I want to be this. I want to do that. And so you have to really sit down and be intentional. Intentionality is a big thing, especially when you're trying to make moves. Try to stick to one goal and then just build up from that, instead of trying to work on 10,000 at the same time. So that was one moment I said, I have to sit down and I have to kind of put aside to my other majors and try to focus on graduating college because I had this big stigma of graduating in 4 years. And that's a big stereotype in the first generation community. We have to graduate in 4 years. We have to have this dream job. You don't have to know everything, but you just have to know the now so that way you can plot. One of my mentors told me about the headlight mentality. So if you're sitting in the car on this, it's very rainy and drizzly right now, and so we turn our headlights on and we can only see but so far, and we can't see beyond. And so right now we really have to have that headlight mentality. We have to focus on the now instead of trying to plot 10,000 things and just stress yourself out. Just focus on the now, be able to be intentional, and get it done. So that's one thing that I struggle with was trying to do 10,000 things at one time. So
So my story, in terms of my academic story, from the bio starts at the community college at Baltimore County in Baltimore. And before that, actually, is an experience of perseverance that kind of sums this question up. When I graduated high school, I enrolled at Howard University in Washington, D.C. It was a great experience. It really opened my eyes to the fullness of the world because there were students from all over the world that were on campus. In my third year, my junior year, I ran out of financial aid at Howard, and I had to go home. So I had to unenroll, go home, work full time. And I worked full time. I worked at a grocery store and I worked at a nonprofit, educational nonprofit in Indianapolis for 3 years, worked full time. And I thought my plan was I would make enough money, go back to school and finish. And I'm not thinking, because I didn't understand the kind of structure of the process, that every year I'm gone, that tuition is increasing. And everything's increasing. Rent is increasing, at the cost of everything. So I'm from the Midwest, which is cheaper than the East Coast. So all these things are happening. And over this time that I'm thinking I'm gonna go back and finish at Howard University, I didn't realize that after so much time goes by with the unpaid financial responsibility I had to that campus, I lost access to my transcript. And so even the coursework of all that I'd done up to that point, I didn't have access to. So my academic story starts with, how am I gonna respond to this situation? Because I went back to Indianapolis with no degree, and then when I left, everybody thought I was gonna finish and come back with this degree and all these opportunities. That wasn't my story. And so when I think about staying motivated in the face of imposter syndrome, as folks have talked about, or just the difficulties you face on campus, I think it's really important to have people who believe in you and have visions for what is possible for you that may be more broad or expansive or imaginative than what you can see in the moment. And that's always been the case with my mentors. That's what has made them mentors for me, is that they can imagine possibilities that I didn't consider. That's really important for mentors. It's also important for family and community people who believe in you, who believe in the value of what you're trying to pursue, who know the difficulty that you face to get to where you stand. I think it's really important to have those people, and in the midst of difficulty, be able to lean on the people around you, and for those people to encourage you and support you, and for those people to have that vision of what you can achieve, so that as you're doing the difficult day-to-day work to make that possible, you have people that believe in the future beyond the work when the work gets hard, and believe in the future that's possible for you when it's hard to navigate the now. And so I think that's really important. It's been really important in my story, but it's also been really important as a friend and mentor to other people to do that for them. And so I think it is important and for us all to have people that we can lean on and people that believe in us, and that in some moments maybe that can be motivation when the self-motivation can be drained by a lot of different things. The optimism and encouragement of other people sometimes can be that next push.
For me, the moments that I doubted if I was able to do this and if I was going to be able to push myself to graduate were the moments that I felt overwhelmed because I had too much going on and I had put too much on myself, and the moments that I felt alone. Those were because I moved here away from Boone, the town that I grew up in, to go to school. So I had to find a job, I had to make new friends. I had family here, but it wasn't, the family I had lived with my whole life. So there are definitely moments when you make that many changes at once that you just feel isolated and you feel alone and you're like, why did I do this? So find people and lean on those people 100%. Like, find a group, make friends, lean on your family, call your family in the middle of the night, they'll answer. And then don't put so much pressure on yourself, because I'm definitely guilty of that. Like, I wanted to do everything. I wanted to be in student government. I wanted to be in all the clubs. I had to work. I wanted to socialize with my friends outside of work, and I had to study, and I had classes, and I wanted to do all of the things, and sometimes it just makes you crash. And it's okay to like take a step back or to slow down and not do everything.
Echoing everything that everyone here has said, I think the thing for me, being a man, being a male, being Mexican American, Latino, we don't talk about mental health. And so for me, this goes to what you were saying, utilize your resources. I have no shame in saying I utilized counseling services to help me make sense of a lot of things that I was struggling with and kind of encountering, because I was the first in my family to do it. I was a first gen student. So much of what I was feeling wasn't relatable to my family, to a lot of my friends. And so, again, I have no shame in saying that I really utilized counseling services to help me understand imposter syndrome and everything that comes with that. So the one thing that I really took away from that, I was the one putting all the pressure on myself. So having that sense of doubt, there is no one way to do school. Everyone genuinely has their own path, and there is no rush. If there's no rush for you, still finish it, still know the end goal, continue to work on yourself and your degree. But at the end of the day, understand that it's your path and your path only. The only person putting the stress and pressure is typically you.
Yeah, definitely put the pressure on myself. This is gonna be one of our last questions, and then we're gonna have a little time for people who had questions with our panel. So our last question for today is gonna be, what did you learn about yourself during college that you didn't expect to learn about yourself?
So I learned through experience that I can lean into perseverance and resilience in a way that I didn't imagine that I would have to. And I think navigating the difficulties that I faced in my individual story gave me a sense of confidence in the workforce that with how difficult college was, I had proof that I could do hard things, which I think is important whenever you face new difficulties, is to be encouraged by what you've already done. And of course, not alone, by the benefit of so many other people in forms of community. But I learned that by being able to do hard things, a lot of the difficulties that I faced could be overcome by that belief in myself, by finding people that believed in me and being in a community where I could believe in other people who look like me, who could also be successful, so that it's not just a story about how I navigate achieving what success looks like for me, but also how people that look like me, people that face similar difficulties can become successful and navigate the challenges that they face to get to the goals that they would like to reach. And so I think that is really important, and really what fills me with pride is that ability to navigate some of the difficulties. And also, I think, learn a lot of things that are unspoken. I think one of the challenges that I faced that I had to overcome is that college and even early career, there's so many unwritten rules. And I think that, like with any job anywhere, the job description on the website is just a small description of the actual work. So with that in mind, how you navigate the actual work in your career or in school involves a lot more than what the first expression of what than what the description is. And I think being able to navigate so many spaces with unwritten rules and unannounced barriers, I think gave me confidence that I could do it again, and that I could find people if I didn't know how. And I think that's really important. It's been important to me, but I hope that that's valuable and important to you in your own story as well.
This is going to sound really canny and really stupid. I learned that I had the capacity to be smart. Like, I graduated from high school with an embarrassingly low GPA. I was a real cruddy student in high school. I did not think college was part of my path. I started because my dad pushed me and because he told me I could live at home for free if I was in school. So when I started community college and I got to take control of and have like autonomy over my own academics and like was able to find my own way to excel at it, that was really empowering for me because I had kind of fumbled my entire way through my academic career up until that point. So that was super empowering to me. And then kind of echo the same thing. Like, I also learned that I was capable of doing exceedingly hard things, and that when times were tough, the world wasn't going to end.
I'll echo that sentiment of I can do hard things. Just realizing that I'm far more capable of doing things than I give myself credit for. I think the other thing is learning doesn't stop once you're done with your education. You're constantly learning, and more than anything, besides learning about your particular subject, you'll learn a lot about yourself. And I think that's one of the big takeaways that I had in finishing my degree and finishing college, where not only did I learn a lot about a particular subject, but I learned a lot about life, learned a lot about myself and that sense of accomplishment. I always like to, as a success coach, I use this example that your college journey is much like a road trip where you have a destination that you're trying to go to. And let's say, again, I'm originally from California. So if I wanted to go back home to California, I could take multiple freeways. I could take multiple routes, might get a flat tire here and there. And yeah, that might change my trajectory for like a day or two. But the idea is to get back on there. So just know that going to college is one road trip. Getting a job is another road trip. It's just a combination of road trips, and you just learn how to deal with it and learn how to have fun. So, yeah.
I think I learned resiliency and grit. For me, I was always like a go-getter. Like, if I needed something, I'm just gonna do somebody's hair or do somebody's eyelashes or try to help somebody out so I can get a little bit of coin and make sure I pay this phone bill. But you have to learn how to slow down. And so it wasn't until I became an adult in grad school that I learned to slow down. Because grad school is all group work, and then as first gen, we want to make sure that we have our work done earlier. So that way we can just chill out and do whatever we got to do and have a home cooked meal and make sure we cook for like our family and stuff when we get home. So it wasn't until grad school that I actually began to slow down. But if I can, go back, in my undergrad, I would definitely try to find those times to just slow down because our parents, I don't know how you all feel, but my parents taught me to always work hard. They said, if you're not working hard, that means you're sleeping. And if you're sleeping, that means you're dead. So it was a very morbid way of thinking, but it was always go, 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 go. Every, time because my family was also military as well. So every time was mapped, every second was mapped. Wake up, make your bed, X, Y, and Z. And so I would just say, slow down. Everything doesn't have to be fast paced and it'll work out for the better. If it was meant to be, it was meant to be. And so one thing that my grad school taught me was mind mapping. If there's an assignment that you are kind of like, I don't want to do, mind map. So this is when I have my highs at this time and my lows at nighttime when I'm ready to go to bed. Or if you're a night owl and you can do all your work listening to J. Cole or something, make sure you knock it out during those J. Cole moments. And then when you're sleepy in the morning, make sure you do your less exciting assignments. That way you can just make sure you're always doing what you have to do, but also taking that time for self-care. So that's one of the reasons why I am, I feel like I'm successful in my own career path because I've learned how to multi-manage and manage my time in the most effective way. So like for this event, I made sure I had my work done. When Megan emailed me, I said, okay, let me make sure I have my work done for the week and then just so I can just chill and prepare for this. And she sent the questions and I said, okay, that's awesome. I love that. The type A in me was just like, yes. So I think that if you all plan your day and manage your time and find more ways to technology helps with that. Trello and event planning and all those different technologies help you with mapping out your day. So just make sure that you also have time for self-care because self-care is the best care.
Thank you so much. Is anybody in the audience who wants to do a question to our panel today? Questions? Everything was clear? Clear as the water? Do we have any questions online? No? We're good with questions? Okay, so we're gonna make this. I just wanna say thank you all for being here. Me as a international student and also as a tourist student and also as a word-based learning student. I'm doing, like you were saying, a little bit of everything. So I took a little bit of everybody what you said. I'm just gonna put it on my journey and remember that I got this. And thank you so much. You have a question? Yeah, I can give it the microphone if you don't.
All right, so my question is, if you had to go back and do things over, what would you do differently?
As I mentioned before, and I think this was said earlier, I wouldn't rush it. Honestly, I wouldn't rush that feeling of needing to work, of needing to do all of these things. And don't get me wrong, obviously everyone has their own situations, and if you genuinely cannot afford an extra year or something along those lines, then I understand. But if you have the opportunity and you can take advantage of being a college student, and I understand the I guess the idea that, like, yeah, you want to work, you want to make money, you'll have the rest of your life to do that. I can't stress it enough. My wife did study abroad, and she did study abroad in London, and she did that for a whole spring semester. So besides being in London and pretty much seeing all of England, she also got to go to Ireland, got to go to the Czech Republic, got to go to Belgium, got to go to all these places that, again, she's also a first-gen student, she never thought she would have done. And then she did a second study abroad in Guatemala, which is completely different to London. So when she talks about that, that's an experience that no one can ever take away from her, and something that to this day she still talks about it, how much that helped her grow, how much that helped her learn about the world and just get out of her California bubble in some ways. So yeah, that would be my single biggest regret. What that I would do differently is do study abroad, spend the extra year, get more involved, just to have fun with it. Because again, I feel like I rushed my undergrad.
I 100% also feel like I rushed through my undergrad because I was tired of being tired and I was tired of working and going to school. And it didn't take me long after I graduated to look back and wish I had slowed down and done more things. And it didn't take me very long after I graduated to realize that the only person putting pressure on me to graduate within a certain time frame was me. And if I could go back and do it over, I absolutely would do the same thing. I would take more time. I would have taken more risks. I would have done more cool things. And just not put so much pressure on myself to stick in a stereotypical box.
I'll make this one short. Okay, so I would say invest. We're working so hard, and I know a lot of us think that's first gen, we should all like work and like, but for me, I was working a lot, and I wish that I would have saved a portion of that money so that way I could invest in like, a Roth and read up like those books called Rich Dad Poor Dad. And if I known about, opportunities like NACA for lower income first generation people, especially of color individuals, that they'll give you grants and they want to give you a house. So if I would have known of a program like that, I would have invested in that. And so just researching, I wish I would have researched. We didn't have, like back then, we didn't have a lot of like, the internet not as easily accessible, but now we have ChatGPT. We have a lot of stuff available to us right now, but just research. So that's what I would do if I was to go back, is research and invest and look up more opportunities. So that way I could have set myself up faster as a mid-professional. So that's what I would say to you.
I would just add to what has already been said about study abroad. I think it would have been a great opportunity to see more of the world and also to experience being a college student in an entirely different environment for a brief window of time. So be able to be a college student some other place and know that I'm going to come back to somewhere familiar, different and changed by that experience. So I think that would have been something that I wish I was able to do.
Well, thank you so much, everybody who attend here. Thank you so much for our panel, and thank you so much, everybody who were online. I hope everybody have a really nice night and get home safe.